back, part of the Call to Action crew, and I'm sitting here with a cool fella. I don't know if you know the name of. His name is Kristian Harloff, I guess. You know what's going on, Kristian?
How are you guys? Thank you for having me here today on this very special. I posted it out and said Bateman versus Bibbs, the rematch, kind of.
Kind of, yeah, absolutely. This is definitely a little bit of a reunion in a different kind of arena for sure when it comes to these two competitors. If you're not familiar with who we are, welcome. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today. Schmoebates is a Schmoedown-themed debate show where we definitely argue and debate to the death, to the blood on all things Schmoedown. We got to ask the weird stuff and the good stuff as well. Now, as you know, this is the championship tournament of the Tournament of Champions. Just want to let you know what the bracket is here. We started off with 2, 4, 6, 8 competitors, and now we're down to 2. So we're going to walk away finding out who's going to walk away with a belt, a beautiful, sexy Schmoebates belt, and who's going to walk away the loser. Okay. Now, you're a fan of debating. You like arguing, especially on Sen. How do you feel about these competitors and their journey to the top? Both of them are sitting at 4-0.
Yeah, I mean, look, they both, I said it on SCN actually today, is that the Bibbs and Bateman have gone at it before in the movie Trivia Schmoedown. And when you look at, I mean, they both know the show. They both know the history of the game very, very well. Bibbs is a professional critic. Bibbs knows how to put together, you know, his arguments are, he doesn't really get super emotional about them. He's well thought out. He times out the way that he's going to say things. I knew he would be great at this. Just as how the way, because he doesn't, and I expect him to say silly things with the picks that he makes. I'm like, oh, he's going to pick something ridiculous. And he doesn't. He picks things that usually are the right thing. So I think Bibbs could definitely win this. And on the flip side of it, you got Bateman, who you look at what he's done just in the game itself. But he knows the history of it. I always think of like Mike Tyson, when Tyson used to watch old school fights of all the greats with Jack Dempsey or Joe Louis and all these people. And that's kind of what Bateman has done. So Bateman knows the history really well. But if I was going to put the history of the overall league between the two of them, I bet you Bibbs knows just a little bit more history than Bateman does.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Not to mention, Bibbs is definitely, when it comes to Schmoedown, he's definitely been around in the world of Schmoedown for, a little bit longer. But, Ben Bateman, when he came in on the best Schmoedown team of all time, Team Action, you can't argue that they weren't exactly quiet coming into it. That's for sure. All right. Well, we did have some, words from some managers from both Ben as well as Bibbs. So let's go ahead and whip them up real fast.
Greetings, Earthlings. Gucci here. And what we have here today is the Schmoebates Tournament of Champions. William the Beast Bibbiani versus Ben D. Bateman. See what I did there? Look, we all know what happened to Bibbiani in Spectacular. That's just something. This ain't trivia. But little does anybody know, the Finstock Exchange doesn't lose at anything we do. Bibbiani was probably the captain of the debate team in kindergarten. He's good. But how are you going to beat somebody with the name Bate in their last name? I think they should name the Schmoebates Schmoebateman. Good luck.
First of all, my dude, Bobby Gucci, how dare you?
He's a wordsmith. It's a real wordsmith.
He is a wordsmith indeed. And also words from another manager himself, Coy. Let's see it.
William the Beast Bibbiani. Do you see all these movies? Those are stacked 3 deep behind me. You know the best thing about William the Beast Bibbiani? He knows what is in each and every minute of each and every one of those and more. And you know what he knows even more about than movies? The Schmoedown. He is ready to Schmoebate he's a master Schmoebater. He's ready to Schmoebate his ass off. He's ready to Schmoebate with the best of them. I got a lot of respect for Ben Bateman, but he is not a master Schmoebater like William the Beast Bibbiani. It is on, Bateman. It is on.
Getting dangerously close to NC-17 with that promo, but also what in wasn't this guy just nominated for an Emmy for a comic book shop? In what world does Bobby Gucci look like? He's got that looks like Roger Deakins as compared to what Coy did. It was awful.
I think Bobby Gucci, he's like low key, just hanging around. He's just like constantly. I think honestly, he just is just walking around LA naked. And if we're lucky, he wears pants, but chances are not likely.
It doesn't look. It doesn't look like a kidnap film. Like that's like Coy's footage. Not the best.
It does kind of sound like a little bit as if it was found in a dungeon, but that's a different faction entirely. Okay, well, going into these competitors, I'm super excited. Just go ahead and introduce these suckers. You may know him as the Beast. I know him as one of my favorite podcasters of all time, being part of critically acclaimed. I love that podcast. And his name is William the Beast Bibbiani.
Such a good song.
Oh, I'm on the air. Oh, hi.
How's it going? How's it going, man?
Hello.
I thought we were bonding over headbanging.
That's just how I dance.
Yeah. I'm so looking forward to watching you actually come down the aisle to a live event to this song.
Oh, some year.
Some year.
That'll be a thing. I love this song, though. Thank you very, very much. Kristian, can you who composed this for us? I want to give
David B. The great David B.
David B. You did a masterful job. That is so the personality of the Quirky Mercs. Thank you for that.
Yeah,
it's very perfect, very on brand for sure. Bibbs, I know you kind of mentioned in previous matches you weren't always like super confident going into these matches. So how are you feeling going into this match in particular as a potential champion?
I am here to make friends.
Make friends.
No, listen, I feel good about my choices today. I'm going to make this long-winded and silly. And who knows, maybe at the end of this all, I will have acquired a new belt. Make sure you make a big belt. I'm a big guy.
It's a beautiful belt, I have to say. The first champion of Schmoebates will be wearing that belt for sure. And go ahead and introduce a real weenie of a person. A guy that, I don't even know who he is. He's just some random guy with sunglasses, and he sometimes wears a tie. It's just weird. I don't know. Ben, the boss Bateman, I guess.
The boss is back!
Wow, he has to introduce his own song, huh?
There he is.
Hey guys, how you doing?
I have to say, this is a great theme. Yeah.
It's a good theme. That's a hell of a theme. That's the theme of a champion. That's the theme of somebody who is 2-0 against his opponent. So, Bibbs, this will be the third time I've beaten you. It's really wonderful to see you. I'm glad you decided to show up today. I commend you for that. And I'm wearing the same jacket that I beat you at Spectacular. Alex is wearing the same jacket she was in when I beat you at Spectacular, and Kristian Harloff was there too. So,
and I'm not going to be rude to you.
That's great.
It would be very off-brand if you decided to be rude. Not gonna lie. Okay.
Well, listen, no matter what happens, no matter who wins that belt, I will feel good about my conduct today, and hopefully that's something we can both say. Conduct.
Whatever, Bibbs. Look, Alex, I love the questions this week. I thought they were great. It's exciting that we have a celebrity judge. And Bibbiani, honestly, truly, I hope I win. So nice. Let's get into the game.
Ben, I hope you win too, because otherwise, I don't know how you're gonna live with yourself. So really, I hope this really feeds whatever insecurity issues you have. Incidentally, no matter what happens, if you ever just want to talk, that's fine, because we neither of us should be basing all of our self-esteem on this.
And yet, Ben will. Let's find out who the winner is after these 3 debates. If you're not familiar with the Schmoebates, awesome. Even better, welcome to Schmoebates. Schmoebates is, like I mentioned, a Schmoedown-themed debate show where we argue and debate to the death, to the blood of all things Schmoedown. So much fun stuff over here with call to action. Now, just to let you know the format and how we're going to go about things, we have 3 questions that both Ben and Bibbs are going to be arguing today. They already know the questions. They have already picked out their answers as well. So it's just a matter of who's going to be debating better, essentially. Now, we are going to be starting with the opening statement for 1 minute apiece. Bibbs will actually be providing his opening statement first, followed by Ben, then 4 minutes of open debate, and then 1 minute of closing statements as well. We will be applying it to all 3 questions. And also for the third and final question, we'll be using this magical coin to determine who is going to go first. And we already determined that Bibbs actually chose the boom side and Ben chose the AMA 5th anniversary. All right. Is everyone ready?
Ready.
Ready? Bibbs?
Sure, why not? Let's do this.
Cool. All right. Ben?
I'm ready, Alex.
Oh, gosh. The worst. All right. Oh,
I think that's fine.
yes. And okay, so we are going to be starting with Bibbs. You have 1 minute on the clock to give us your opening statement. And the first question is, Kristian, will you please read the question for us, please?
All right, Bibbs, here we go. Which Inner Geekdom competitor who was eliminated in the first round of the tournament shows the most potential to win the IG belt?
We just finished up the first round of the IG tournament, so I feel like it's a very timely question for sure. Starting with you, Bibbs, you have 1 minute to let us know your answer and initial reasons, starting right now.
You want somebody for that Inner Geekdom belt who shows confidence, promise, talent. You want someone who's going to be a capable leader inside and outside the ring. And you want someone who actually has at least one Inner Geekdom win under their belt. You want Ben Goddard. That's right. Ben Goddard. A man so powerful, he literally has God in his name. Ben Goddard not only had a TKO on his very first match in the Inner Geekdom, but in the second match, he actually had a very, very, very strong showing against someone who was seen as the Lord High, all-intelligent, all-thinking giant brain of the Inner Geekdom and took him to the limit. Ben Goddard only lost that match because Mark Ellis screamed in his ear. Imagine how talented you have to be. That Mark Ellis screaming in your ear is literally your only weakness. Both of these guys just didn't make it all the way through. Anything to say! Thank you.
All right. Ben, you two have 1 minute to let you know your pick, starting right now.
Well, Bibbiani, picking the flavor of the month rookie is really cute. I like Ben Goddard. I think he's a really nice guy, and I think he's shown tremendous promise in the league, but he hasn't done anything. He beat RB3 with his first Inner Geekdom match. That's, I mean, no offense to RB3, but that's not exactly, world killing there. He kind of played well against Robert Parker, kind of, except that when he got one of the Inner Geekdom categories that's on the wheel, he just totally tanked. The person I'm picking is Polyama. Polyama is a champion. Polyama went 6-0 in his first 6 matches in singles. And when Polyama wants to focus on Inner Geekdom and make it his goal to win, he will. We're not prospecting what might happen. We're talking about what will happen. Polyama is one of the most dedicated, focused, moneyball players we have ever seen. Polyama literally went in playing against somebody whose strengths he knew. Somebody from the fan leagues that was one of his best friends, played the match as kind of a shrug of his shoulders, and still played well. You have pedigree there. You've got nothing with Ben Goddard.
Ooh, we have 2 really great picks, Oyama as well as Goddard, and both have tremendous potential in IG. What do you think about these picks initially, without going to the actual debate itself, Kristian?
I think they're great picks. I think both have great picks. I think that Bibbs going with Goddard, showing what Goddard has done so far, and the determination is a solid pick. But I think Ben also makes a really great point of looking at the determination. It's a former champion, and you look at what he's done and the fight that he gave Chance inside of that first round. Yeah, both great picks. Looking forward to seeing how they argue.
Absolutely. A lot of the some of the questions, some of the options included, Alba, Janine, you know, there's a lot of different options for sure. Jen Kemp, you know, as well, Saul. So there's definitely a lot of options. I feel like that could have been the conversation here, but both these options are fantastic. Okay, you guys have 4 minutes to provide your debates. Pretty much go to town.
I challenge. I challenge right now because Ben already started his argument off with an inaccuracy. Ben Goddard didn't play RB3 in the first round of the Intergeekdom tournament. He played Jim Vejvoda, and Jim Vejvoda actually has a much more storied history in the whole league. He actually came very, very close to being a team's champion. He is very well respected in this industry, and beating him is no small feat. He also TKO'd him rather than coming in close. And the other thing Ben brought up that I think is really kind of making my whole argument for me, he said when Paul wants to play Intergeekdom, when Paul wants to win Intergeekdom, he'll do it. Then why didn't he? So you're saying he's just going to jump into an Intergeekdom tournament and he's going to disrespect it so much, he's just going to do it with a shrug of his shoulders? I want someone who's actually going to take this seriously and fight to the limit, and that is Ben Goddard. That is someone who is actually fighting to be part of the Intergeekdom right now, rather than, according to Ben, just doing it just because. That is not an Intergeekdom champion. That is an Intergeekdom wannabe.
Well, I think what you're talking about there, Bibbs, is reasonably effective. Beating Jim Vejvoda in the first round of the Intergeekdom tournament, a player who classically has no idea what he's doing and has no idea how to play the game, not the most impressive win. His first match of the season was against RB3. He got the Lord of the Rings category in that match, which was his first win. So maybe I misspoke, but that's what I was talking about. Now, when I say Paul Oyama is going to win when he wants to win, I'm talking about the fact that when Paul Oyama set his mind to winning the singles belt, he didn't just win the singles belt. He beat the greatest of all time to win the singles belt.
Oh my God, Ben is arguing that Paul Oyama let him win. That is what Ben is arguing right now. Because
he focused on singles. He focused on teams. He's never put his mind fully into Intergeekdom. That's just the truth.
When you beat him? Also, if you're arguing that he did want to win when he beat you, that was the lowest scoring round play in a title championship ever. So Paul Oyama, while I have a lot of respect for him and I like him a lot, I'm not actually convinced that he's this person who's going to do literally everything he sets his mind to. He is very, very fallible. You know who has only just had his first defeat, and it was narrow in the Schmoedown? It's Ben Goddard. And even when you look at his, if you compare the match between Oyama and Chance, Oyama has beat Chance multiple times in other arenas, okay? But when it came down to the Intergeekdom, he just couldn't do it. Intergeekdom is a different entity. His score against Chance Ellison was less than the score that Ben Goddard get against an arguably even more formidable opponent, okay? With Mark Ellis screaming in his ear.
Okay, Bibbs, let's come off the screaming in his ear nonsense, because that's just rude, and it's an absurd thing to say. It's not really a thing that happened. He made a joke. Hey, you feel free to keep interrupting me if you want. It's obnoxious. But if you want to sit here and disparage my legacy, if your plan... No, Bibbs, you're going to need to listen to me, because if it is your plan to disparage my legacy by talking down about Paul, I beat you to get to it. So, you know, I did my job to get there to beat the guy.
You absolutely
and I beat
did,
both.
But your argument
but having played you both,
was that if Paul wants something that he sets his mind to, he's going to get it, which means one of two things. Either he didn't set his mind against beating you, which lessens your victory, or he did, and he's not a great argument right now. Those are the only two options.
Lessen my victory if you want, Bibbs. That's not what we're talking about. You can have the opinion if you want to. I'm not here to fight for how great of a Schmoedown player I'm here.
He fights for it, and he didn't fight for it very well, did he?
You're telling me that because Ben Goddard went one round further in the Intergeekdom tournament, he is somehow a world killer? My guy won the fucking singles belt. That's the truth. You have no leg to stand on. I mean, literally, like, you're taking your entire claim on the fact that Ben Goddard set his mind to it, and then he lost in the second round.
Answer me a question. How many Intergeekdom matches has Paul Oyama won in the Schmoedown proper?
He has won 0.
Done.
That doesn't answer your question. It's talking about potential to win a belt someday.
Better potential? Who has better potential? Someone with a win under their belt, or someone who has literally never won a match in the Intergeekdom?
Who has more potential? The guy that's won a few matches, or the guy that went 6-0 and won the title off the greatest of all time?
That wraps up our debate.
I love you so much, Ben.
Now, I do want to reiterate actually something Bibbs has actually mentioned in the past. Now, these arguments are... when we decide winners today, and when I say we, I mean you guys, people that are watching this voting today, you guys are going to be the ones actually going to be determining who's going to be the winner and who's going to be the loser via voting on Twitter. So just want to give you a heads up there. Now, Also, both these picks now, these aren't personal. Obviously, if we're not going to pick, we don't want to pick Bibbs because he's part of the Quirky Mercs and he's part of, a really awesome faction. And you don't want to pick, Ben Bateman just because he's part of the Finstock Exchange and you want to worship at Bobby Gucci's, feet, which is totally fine. But you want to vote specific to these arguments. Just want to clarify. Now, before you guys go over to Twitter and vote, please listen to these closing statements as well. Kristian, what did you think about some of these arguments? Is there any questions you need addressed?
I mean, no, I don't know if I'm supposed to give kind of my overall thoughts on it, but like it did seem like Bibbs was trying to do exactly what Ellis did to Goddard, and I personally think it worked because Ben was arguing the point of how his victory was the one that Bibbs was trying to disparage, and that wasn't the argument at hand. It was Bibbs trying to say that Oyama was the one that just didn't go to show up, and Ben started trying to say, "Hey, you're saying my victory over you didn't count," and Bibbs kept him going down that route because that was more time he wasn't spending arguing his point. I see what you did there, Bibbs. Watching overall right now, I think they both still have good points, but I think that Bibbs at the moment is making a stronger case for what.
Well, what is something that you need addressed in the closing statements in order to win your favor?
The question is, who's got the most potential to win the IG belt? They're saying who's going to be. What I'm getting out of these arguments is who's going to be good in Inner Geekdom, and they both could be good, but what who out of the two has the potential to be champion, and why can they be champion? That's the question. Who's got the most potential to win the IG belt? That argument has not been made yet by either one of the competitors today.
Absolutely. When it comes to Schmoedown, if you want to be good in Schmoedown, you can't just want to be good. You got to be great. You got to go for that belt. Absolutely. So let's hear why both Goddard and, Oyama, both deserve and alternatively not deserve to potentially get the IG belt. Let's hear it. Okay, so this time around, we are going to be starting with Bibbs with your closing statements. And just want to remind you, you still have your additional 30-second rule since it is a championship match to use at whenever you like. You can use it or not use it and save it for one of the other questions. You have 1 minute starting now.
Who has the most potential to win? Well, I think a rising star has a little bit more potential than a falling star. Paul Oyama came off of a disastrous loss at Spectacular. He lost against John Roca. He's doing okay in teams, but his energy, his focus, his passion doesn't seem to be there right now. Ben Goddard, on the other hand, is there every single day. Ben Goddard is working his butt off, trying to make sure that he's making not only a name for himself in this league, but trying to make a place for himself in this league. And right now, the Inner Geekdom is a place where he can do that. He has shown power. He has shown drive. He has shown intelligence. He got a better score in his matches than Paul Oyama did. He TKO'd someone. Paul Oyama didn't. He won a match. Paul Oyama didn't. And frankly, I think Ben Goddard is a hero we need right now. Did you see how much money he raised for Black Lives Matter? I mean, that's a hero. That's someone we want to be a champion. That's someone the fans are going to support. That is someone that is not only gonna be champion, but should be a champion. Thank you.
Should be a champion, yielding the rest of the few seconds. Okay, that's a really solid argument. And being a champion is not only about having all the knowledge there. It's about what's going on behind the scenes as well. Okay, absolutely. All right, over to Ben the Bus Bateman. You two have 1 minute on the clock to make your arguments in favor of Oyama, starting now.
Yeah, it's really wonderful what Ben Goddard has done in fundraising. I think he's a tremendous guy, and I think that's really, really great stuff. It has nothing to do with him being an IG champion or his ability to get to be an IG champion. So I'd like you to separate yourself from that. I actually think it's pretty lowbrow and bad taste to bring it up in an argument about who's going to be an Inner Geekdom champion in the Schmoedown. Who is the best player Ben Goddard has ever beaten is the first question I ask you, in any division. If your answer is Jim Vejvoda, you have no leg to stand on. He's an up-and-coming guy who's beaten some nothing players, whereas my guy literally came in, went 6-0, and beat the greatest of all time. That's what it takes. Not only that, when you want to moneyball the system, you moneyball the system. You go in, you learn the categories, and you win. That's what Inner Geekdom is. If it was just about knowing a lot about movies, Bibbs, you'd still be champion, and you wouldn't have ever lost the belt. But it's not. It's not just about how much you know. It's about learning how to play the game, learning how to use what you know effectively, and being a great player, which is what Paul Oyama has shown he can do. Inner Geekdom is a division that requires that, which is why he will do it in the end.
Time.
Weird that he has it.
Full 60 seconds. Okay.
Ben, I think that's the nicest thing you've ever said about me. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that, man. That means a lot to me. Thank you so much.
Okay, now real quickly, a lot of love thrown over to Bibbs for sure and Ben. Now real quickly, I do want to bounce over to the chat. So a lot of people are real quick to say, boom, drop the mic. Bibbs, hey Lucas, is bringing it today.
Oh, thank you.
Also, real quickly, there's a lot of love on both sides of these argument. Kristian, if you're voting today, heck, actually scratch that. You personally can vote, honestly, as a co-host. Yes, and now as a co-host. Now, who would you vote for?
Well, before the closing statement, I said Bibbs would have won it hands down. I still think he made a very strong closing argument, but I think Ben came back pretty strong, pretty solid there at the end. Gave his reasons why Oyama could potentially be mentally strong enough, as opposed to where he's battle tested in that division, or excuse me, at that level, and Goddard has not been. So I thought that was a strong argument, and I thought that was a good way to do it. I do think that Bibbs had a little bit stronger of a start, so I would give the slight edge to Bibbs, though, even though I think if you voted for Bateman based off the end, I would understand it, but I'd probably give Bibbs that first one.
Absolutely. Now, again, if you are raking in all this knowledge and you're like, I want to vote in favor of Ben, I want to vote in favor of Bibbs, awesome. Go over to Twitter and vote right meow. That'd be pretty darn cool. And you can let us know who should win this first argument. We're going to be waiting until the end to really not only give people time to go vote. It's right here on our Twitter one, and give us a follow if you're hanging out there. That'd be much appreciated. But also, you can let the information marinate for a little bit and wait till the end. Totally up to you. Okay. We're going to be going into our second question. And by far, thank you. And also thank you to Frankie Janish, actually, for inspiring this question. I was watching the rundown the other day, and I was like, this is a great question. We should talk about it on Schmoebates. All right. The second question is, Kristian, will you read it?
Yep. Which manager can form the strongest core trio for next season by retaining current players?
Yes, absolutely.
It's a good one.
Okay. Yeah, and again, thank you to Frankie Janish arguing in favor in one of the actually factions earlier today. That's going to be debated today. So I'm excited to see it reaffirmed or broken down. Okay, we're going to be starting this for this question with Ben, and you have 1 minute as well for your opening statement. You'll let us know who you think would form the best trio. Starting right now.
This question is sort of a joke, actually, I think. And the idea that anybody would pick anybody other than Bobby Gucci is absurd. I don't know how you could even look yourself in the mirror and feel okay about waking up or going to sleep if you didn't pick Bobby Gucci. He has so far and away clearly the strongest members on his faction. And it doesn't matter how you break it down. You can get into the semantics of calling it a trio. You can talk about personality clashes or divisions. The Finstock Exchange has strength in every division. It has strength at every position between teams, between singles. And there are so many different ways you could mix us up, and it still doesn't matter. There's no other faction that's even in the same conversation. If the one place that we actually want to focus on and talk about is that Inner Geekdom is not a belt that is currently held by or has been won by the Finstock Exchange, which is, I'm assuming, the only thing you'd come back at me with, we have Dan Murrell, who's yet to enter in the division, who's the greatest of all time and has never lost when he's put a mind to it. Ever a single time once. Not to mention Barbarian, who's crushing the tournament. And in Milan.
Okay, in favor of Gucci with the core trio. I'm actually kind of curious, considering how many great competitors are on the Finstock Exchange. I'm kind of curious what the core trio would be, for sure. Okay, and over to you, Bibbs. You also have 1 minute on the clock to let us know your pick. Starting now.
Frankie Janish inspired this question, and Frankie Janish answered this question definitively. The only answer here is corruption, because you don't have the question, oh, who am I going to pick? Who am I going to break up in order to make this happen? Who might be good at Inner Geekdom? You've got everybody. You've got team champions. You've got Chance Ellison and Mike Kalinowski. You have a multiple-time Inner Geekdom champion, Mike Kalinowski. You have Chance, who's shown a lot of promise in the Inner Geekdom in the singles league, and who has the potential, because he's actually lower ranked despite his great knowledge, to earn a ton of points on his path to both of those things, as opposed to grandfathering in a bunch of champions or high-ranked players who aren't going to play as often or rake in as many points. Also, you've got Laura Kelly, who, unlike anyone on the Finstock Exchange, has actually played a championship match in the Star Wars League and gotten to that point. She was the only person at Flight of Spectacular who lost and didn't get knocked out. So what we have here is the absolute perfect combination. You don't have to debate anybody. You don't have to lose great players. You just have to pick two champs.
Oh, solid picks all around. Okay. Whew. Is there anything you're kind of nervous about going into the open debate, Kristian?
This particular one, I'm very curious because I want to see where I think Bibbs makes a smart move, picking a faction that he's not involved with, because he doesn't have to say which, because he can say that 3 and it has nothing to do with his faction. Very curious where Bateman's going to go with what 3 he's going to pick here. So I'm curious to hear it. But the only thing I would dock points on Bibbs for is saying Star Wars League. It's a division, people. It's a division. Even on the graphic it says league, that needs to change also.
All right. So you're saying it's challengeable. You're saying it's challengeable.
Challengeable, but no. But the arguments they're both very solid arguments on both great choices, because I think what Bateman said going into it with the amount of talent that's on Finstock Exchange, what manager can form the strongest core trio for next season? So they're both great choices on both. So let's see how they argue.
Absolutely. Not now to say so many great competitors all around, but core trio. Whew. Let's hear it. You guys got 4 minutes to make your arguments, starting right now.
So Finstock Exchange is going
to
lose some big talent here no matter how we play it. And the only question is, who are we going to take a chance on right now? Because, you got the champion team right now, but if you actually want to play it smart, you're going to have to break them up so that another team is actually going to have a chance to build up and make more points, because that actually gets you more points that way. So we're going to be breaking up the Founding Fathers. Ben's obviously very committed to Dan. He thinks Dan can do anything if he sets his mind to it. Once again, raising the question of how Ben explains all the times that he lost, but whatever, it's his faction. He can say whatever he wants about it. So we got Dan. We're putting a lot of faith on him in singles and teams. Obviously, we're going to break up him and Roca. Obviously. So who's left? You got Di Malanta, who is very talented, but unlike Laura Kelly, he's never actually made it to a championship match. So there you go. Laura Kelly's a better pick right there. And what are you going to do? Are you going to stick yourself on there? Or are you going to enter Inner Geekdom and make it strong? Because Corruption actually has 2 strong Inner Geekdom players and a solid team that is in great standing to actually rise up and make more points. And you got
Bibbs,
Laura
you talk about being strong in teams. We're the team champs. You talk about being strong in singles. We're the single champs. You talk about who's gone further in Star Wars in this modern division.
Who has beaten those team champs?
One time, and then they lost the belt because we have the greatest players of all. It's not just like the actual greatest players of all time on the faction. So any combination. You talk about Laura Kelly having played in a championship match. That's like she played in a championship match at a time when Star Wars got like 2 matches a year. We just had a guy make the finals in the most competitive version of that division ever. She didn't make the finals. Our guy did. All right. So at the end of the day, you want to argue about the fact you have 2 strong Inner Geekdom players. That's fine. Inner Geekdom is the 3rd most important division. Mike's never won a singles belt. Chance has never won a singles belt. Those guys got lucky and hit James Bond 74 times to win the belt 1 time, and they're going to never get it back.
More often than ever before. Inner Geekdom is huge right now. Inner Geekdom draws in the numbers. Inner Geekdom draws in the fans. So you want to focus on Inner Geekdom. Do you want to have 2 great Inner Geekdom players that people already know and care about, or do you want to take a chance that Dan Murrell is going to absolutely 100% not pull an Andrew Guy and actually make it all the way through this thing, or do you want to risk not overextending him and get rid of him and maybe focus on the Barbarian? By the way, who is your dream composition? I got to ask.
You're literally talking about having the strongest players on the Oakland Athletics being as good as actually like the world champion Yankees. One's really cute and wonderful for what it's doing. The other one's actually the best in the world. That's what we are.
Games. How many matches has Dan won in Inner Geekdom? How many games has he played in that division?
There's 4 people on our team that if they wanted to win the Inner Geekdom belt, they could. That's what I really truly believe. It's 1 division, Bibbs. We're the champs in the other 2 that matter. And our guy went further than your guy in the other. But if you really want my trio, if you want my composition,
got them all covered.
Hey, you asked me a question, right? You want my trio?
You waited a long time to answer it. Let's go for it.
Yeah, I'll tell you exactly who my trio is.
Great.
It's whoever the champions are at the end of the year, which we will have 3 people that are at the end of the year. So whoever they are, that's who Gucci's going to keep. Because there's no chance in hell there are 3 champions on your roster. It's impossible. Who's your third player? Somebody who you hope has potential? Because mine are all champions. Mount Rushmore exists on the Finstock Exchange.
Okay,
we can literally slice a piece off of it and just put it.
What if your champions at the end of the year? What if your champions of the year are not Dean Malanta, because that's very, very likely, and your champions at the end of the year are not Dan and Moroka, but it's actually you and Riley, and then you're the singles league? Then you don't have Inner Geekdom covered. So no, that actually doesn't work. You actually have to pick who has all of the divisions covered. Who will have that even if you don't win, because you're gambling off of a maybe. What do you? I don't have to gamble off of a maybe. I already know who my experts are. I'm not
Bibbiani, if Gucci is in a position,
isn't arguing right now.
Go ahead.
That wraps it up for our open debate. Oh yeah, Kristian dancing with me over here.
Doing a little moves. Yeah, I mean, when I look at that one, that's like 50-50 to me, because they're both arguing different things. Bibbs is giving exact examples of why he believes that that his faction, Corruption here, or not his faction, but you know what I mean, the one that he picked, would has an argument. I think he makes strong arguments too, and he's based on going through stacking with Inner Geekdom and stacking with all different divisions, Star Wars and teams and singles, which is a very solid argument. But Bateman, on the other hand, is also making a solid argument inside of what he's doing. He's not arguing necessarily the divisions. He's arguing which manager can get the strongest core trio as far as talent goes. And it's hard to argue against the talent with what Finstock Exchange has. I think that they're both making solid arguments on both points, so I don't think anybody has the edge thus far. It's just a matter of, I think, what I'd like to hear from both of them is which manager is the question, right? Which manager can form the strongest core trio? Which manager can do that? Which manager is able to keep them? Because what if you know, maybe some of these people want to leave? Are they going to be able to keep some of the people inside of it too? You might have the talent, but what if you're not taking the personal side of this thing? Maybe Laura Kelly wants to play somewhere else. Maybe John Roca wants to play somewhere else. You know, it's who knows? What manager can form them? What manager has the ability to make that happen? That's what I see from the question, and I haven't heard much of that yet. I've just heard about the talent inside of the factions themselves.
I absolutely agree. I was actually about to kind of mention that we haven't really heard mention about Bobby Gucci, you know, managing the core trio, or Shannon at all. You know, talking about how amazing these competitors are, it's all well and good, but we haven't really heard anything about, you know, what makes their abilities as managers to really build them up and reform them, whatever they need to do in order to create these strong core trios. Absolutely. Okay, now real quickly from the chat, you know, there's a lot of love from both, you know, but at the end of the day, David B here, best musician of all time, what's up? Legitimately, both are bringing it, you know, but also, you know, there's a lot of people on both sides right now. So I'm kind of curious to see them wrap it up. Now, I do think that for the closing statements for this question in particular, we just really need to dive into the managers a little bit. Now, I do also want to remind you do have the additional championship 30-second rule. You can still use at any point. Totally up to you, or ignore it. Totally fine as well. Now, since it's the second question, we'll be starting with Ben for your closing statement. You have 1 minute on the clock. Are you ready?
Unmute. I am.
All right, starting now.
Look, at the end of the day, what it really comes down to for me is when I look at Corruption's roster, the third best player on the roster is Laura Kelly. And as much as I like Laura Kelly, that's not a strong trio, because having a player who doesn't actually contend for a Star Wars belt in this current climate does not make a strong trio. It makes two players who are great in two-ish divisions, maybe three. One of them could go really far in singles, but neither of them's ever played for a singles title. Whereas if you look at the Finstock Exchange, our third piece, while maybe not an Inner Geekdom champion, if we were to keep somebody who wanted to make a run for it, is somebody who is contending well in the division. If we wanted to keep a Star Wars player, we could, because that player is going to get a title shot literally next season. That's a thing that's going to happen. And if we didn't want to do that, if we just wanted to go after the two most important divisions, we have Dan Murrell, we have John Roca, we have Mark Riley, we have myself. Any combination of three of those players is a blockbuster, game-winning reason we're going to win the title this year as the best faction. You just can't argue because your third best player is Laura Kelly. Unfortunately, it sucks for you, Bill. I'm sorry.
And time. All right. Okay. I hear you. All right. And over to Bibbs. You also have 1 minute on the clock. Starting now.
There are no unimportant divisions in the movie trivia Schmoedown. You actually need to have them all taken care of. And the only faction right now that has a trio of players that they can retain, that they're all taken care of, is corruption. And you can't even really commit to who you want to keep in the Finstock Exchange. Bobby Gucci is the notoriously least effective communicator in the managers. Shannon is absolutely fantastic at it. She has got dedication and loyalty. The Finstock Exchange practically broke up in February because of how badly Gucci managed all of his players. So I'm not actually convinced that you're even going to have all of those players at the end, or that they aren't going to flee elsewhere so that they can be big fishes in little ponds rather than all compete to be the third, fourth, or fifth best in someone's eyes. Ben, would you rather be the fifth best person in your faction, or would you rather be the best person in your faction? Finstock has some tough decisions to make. Shannon has the easiest decisions in the world. She picks the champs.
And
I'll take my 30 seconds here, actually, and just cap it off with my 30 right now. So my closing statement to Bibbs' closing statement is going to be this. Bibbs, you lack confidence. You didn't even have the confidence to pick yourself here, because you could have picked you and Brendan Meyer and Mark Anopic. You could have done that, but you have so little confidence in your belief that you actually know what you're doing here. You didn't. You leaned on the flavor of the month faction. You leaned on the corruption and Chance and Laura Kelly to try to make your point. I don't have to make the decision about who my trio is because it's not my faction. It's Bobby Gucci's faction, and he's a phenomenal, phenomenal manager who always makes the right decision. Multiple-time manager of the year.
And I'm going to take my 30 seconds.
Okay, as well. You got 30 seconds starting now.
I love it.
I am not on trial here. It's no, I can ask my 30 seconds whenever I want. I'm reclaiming my time, by the way.
Yes, I am letting you have the additional time after both myself and Ben interrupted. Starting now.
Okay, I am not on trial here. It's not about how little confidence I have in my faction. It's about who can win a debate. And the debate was settled before we even began. Frankie Numbers, an expert in the numbers of the league, has already declared that corruption is the easiest and best answer to go here. And the reason why is because Finstock is going to be a clusterfuck no matter who he picks. The whole faction is going to evaporate. You're going to lose a ton of people at the end of this season because they're all going to go elsewhere. Because
time. Woo! All right. I don't know about you. I just need some water.
Yeah, I'll take some water.
Woo! Everyone ready for some yoga? We just need a...
That's good.
Oh.
That's good. This is getting intense. All right.
I love all you guys. This is fun.
Yes, absolutely. Now, I just do want to reiterate, that these are not attacks on any one particular competitor, manager, or faction, or anything along those lines. This is just specifically to these for these arguments for this Schmoebate belt. So, just want to reiterate that as well.
We love all of these players. I'm sure I speak for Ben and myself. This is a heated thing. Everyone's saying angry stuff. I love Ben more than I love most members of my own family. I think he's really, really great. So I'm sure we both are very happy to admit that this is all in good fun.
Exactly.
It's a blast. I'm having a great time.
So am I. This is great. We're both very competitive people, just in very different ways.
Now, before we go into the third and final question, again, please let us know your opinions and make your vote known over on Twitter at Collection Pod over there. That'd be really appreciated. And we're going to find out before the 111 people that are watching this, you guys are going to be the ones to decide who's going to walk away a winner today. So take that voting seriously. Go do it. All right. Now we are going to be going into the third and final question, and we're going to be using this beautiful action coin to determine who's going to go first. All right. Now, before we started recording, we already determined that Bibbs is going to be Boom, and Ben is going to have the one with his face on it right there on the AMA 5th anniversary. Okay. Let's see. Sorry, I hit the ceiling, literally. Now it is in favor of Boom with Bibbs. So you like to go first or second for our final question?
I'll go second.
Second? All right. You like to defer? So that means we're going to be starting with Ben for a third and five.
And your winner.
What?
You won.
Yeah, I guess so.
Bateman's gone. Bateman left.
Oh, well, okay, great. Thank you. Oh, listen, everybody, thank you so much for all of this. It's really, really nice that Ben just called it quits on me. Oh, hey. I mean, hi, Ben.
Whoops. see. Just there.
Back. Am I good? Are all my settings working? I think I just connected.
You sound good. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds
Okay,
good.
cool.
Yeah, so we're going to be starting with Ben for your opening statements. And Kristian, will you please let us do the honor? Well, please do the honor for us for reading the third and final question that you actually picked, I believe.
This is a tougher one, so I want to see what they say. What is the best overall spectacular of all time?
And both these competitors have, some personal interests, I think. All right. You have 1 minute on the clock. Starting now for your opening statement. 1 minute.
Yeah, I chose the 2017 Spectacular. And the reason being, I think when you look at a Spectacular, you're never going to get a card that has only blockbusters. That just doesn't happen. You're not going to have matches that are all great matches. But what you will have is at least usually one or two very, very memorable, incredible matches, plus a piece of theatrics. And I chose 2017 largely because you have the Knapsack versus Whitwer Iron Man match, which is one of the most beloved matches of all time. I think prior to this tournament was the best Star Wars match we had ever seen. A very, very exciting match. One of the only times that an Iron Man match was really, truly used the most effectively. You also have the famous tackle, Andrew Guy versus John Roca, in a match that was a total stinker. The match itself was a blowout. But it was the match that set the tone for the level of theatrics the Schmoedown was going to represent going forward. It was planned, and the audience didn't know it. We surprised the audience with it. On top of that, Above the Line versus the Patriots is an iconic all-time match.
And time. Yeah, a lot of really big matches in Spectacular 2017. Now, I got to say, every Spectacular.
That was number 2.
Oh, sorry. Yes, number 2. It was the second one. Thank you for specifying. Yeah, a lot of really great matches. And over to you, Bibbs. Let's hear your pick. You also have 1 minute on the clock, starting now.
Okay, Ben's right about this. In order to have a great Spectacular, you have to have great matches. And I can't think of a Spectacular that had more great matches than 2018, because you started off with a Manager Bowl, which was actually the best Manager Bowl we ever had. It was full of surprises. Everyone was really tight in there. There were a bunch of exciting challenges, and it led to big drama, big world-changing stuff at the Schmoedown. When all the secrets were revealed, it was exciting as hell. You've got one of the best team matches ever between the Shire Wolves and Who's the Boss. You've got a really impressively tight a Star Wars match between Alex Damon and Ken Knapsack, 27-25. Clark Wolf finally played Dan Murrell. We really wanted them together. That was exciting as hell. You got Mara Konopik versus Mike Kalinowski in a rematch where there was anger and fury and ire. And then he had Ethan Irwin beating John Roca and actually injecting some really new, fresh blood into the champs in the singles division for the first time in a really long time. This was absolute beautiful drama. And you want to talk about a tackle? Best tackle ever? And go to the table.
Woo! Oh, shots fired indeed. Okay, boy. All right. So you're the commissioner. No, it's like you were the commissioner. Like I said, you're personally involved in this, Kristian. Okay, so trying to stay objective. I do feel like these were definitely the top picks of all the Spectaculars we have. But what did you kind of think about these so far?
I could have seen someone make an argument for the first one also for everything that kind of happened in the first one, but 2 and 3 are great picks. What I'd like to see why. I mean, I know that they kind of mentioned it a little bit, but Spectacular for me is what really drives the story and the narrative to the next season. It's the most important. It really started with the first Spectacular, with the formation of the Horsemen and everything too. Or Lions Den, will you rather? And it began this new thing. We've done that every Spectacular. There's been stuff that has moved the storyline. I want to hear why their choices were so, prominent. Why the story moved so much. Like, what was it about the story and the matches themselves? What did they do? And thank you to and Ben Bateman. I saw out of all the matches, didn't mention me in the main event, so he gets an extra point for that because that was a stinker of a match. But I joke. I'd like to see a little more about the overall why the Spectaculars that they chose were so good and what they did for the overall league.
Absolutely. When it comes to Spectacular, it's all about several things. It's not only about the great matches, which both these Spectaculars, obviously do multiple really fantastic matches, but the drama, the story. How do we think about talking about these Spectaculars today? How have they impacted Schmoedown today? Right. All right, so we're going to be going into our open debate. You guys have 4 minutes, and this is your final open debate of the championship match today. And let's see it hashed out. You have 4 minutes starting now.
I think it's important to point out that the commissioner himself, who just mentioned that his match was not the most special, did actually play in the headlining match at that spectacular. Maybe it wasn't a great match and maybe you were totally worn out, but the bottom line is it is the only spectacular in which we've gotten to see the chairman, the creator of the league, play in the singles title match.
And as the commissioner himself admits, it was a bad match. When you're looking at what spectacular had the best matches, you also have to look at what's the overall average here. And actually that second spectacular didn't all have the best or most amazing matches in the world. You said yourself, Teams was a blowout. The last two matches in Spectacular 2 were a total blowout. And Kristian is an incredible commissioner. He was running that thing. He was just too tired at the end to put up that much of a fight. That brings it down a little bit. You have the Patriots winning again. Who cares? That didn't push anything forward. Top 10 winning again. Who cares? That didn't really move the needle forward a little bit. You got that. It was a cool Star Wars match. I'll give you that. But who do we talk about when we talk about the great Star Wars players? Not Ken Napzok. We talk about Alex Damon, who beat him later. We talk about who do we talk about? We talk about the best Intergeekdom players later. We don't talk about Jason Inman. But when we talk about the best of the best of the best, okay, we're talking about the Shire Wolves, who face their toughest opponents, I think, maybe even more so than we did at Critically Acclaimed with Who's the Boss. That is the tough match. That proved exactly how tough Ben Bateman could be. You got Alex Damon proving himself yet again. Okay, fine. That isn't the most amazing thing ever. You got Dan Murrell coming back after that really disastrous defeat against Andrew Guy, making his comeback tour. It's all going to lead to him getting the belt next season and reclaiming it and taking his rightful spot. You got Mike Kalinowski taking over from Mara Konopik, which is one of the biggest, craziest upsets ever, and that really, really pissed a lot of people off. That was a huge source of drama. You have Irwin.
You can read the phone book if you want here, Bibbs. You're just listing every match.
Boy, did it affect team action.
You're just listing every match, Bibbs. If you want me to list every match in mind,
because every match was great.
That's an absurd thing for you to say. Everybody really wanted Dan Murrell to play Clark Wolf. Guess what? It had already happened before. This was just a return. It wasn't even a match that mattered. Irwin versus Roca. Yeah, that match kind of matters, except not really, because what really mattered was the next season when Irwin played. You want to talk about storyline? You talk about me getting put through a table. Guess what set the stage for that to even exist in the Schmoedown?
Guess who set the stage?
Team action. In the spectacular I'm talking about. Physical violence and theatricality was created by my team.
And that was
and then we did it again the next year.
I didn't like it in one bit.
And you want to talk about Bibbs, you want to talk about the best team of all time, the Shire Wolves, and I agree. They're a great team. You know who the best team of all time is by record? It's the Patriots. And it was the height of the Patriots. They were the height of villainy at that time in the Schmoedown. It was the peak of the Patriots.
The Shire Wolves, in the eyes of many fans, had yet to officially prove themselves. A lot of people said, oh, they've had easy opponents the entire way through. Who's the Boss was the match that solidified the Shire Wolves as the greatest team in the history of this game.
Yeah, but Who's the Boss hadn't won anything, and we still haven't. I hate to say it, Bibbs. Looking back on it, the Shire Wolves are an iconic team. They didn't beat a champion.
How dare you besmirch Who's the Boss like that? How dare you?
Just being honest, man. I know what we're going to do. I know what we're going to do, but we haven't.
Exactly. So it was exciting to see you get to that point and try, because you haven't done that since. You poor bastards! I was rooting for you.
You know, Bibbs, I have to tell you, you're just once again focusing on the second best option, and you're trying to draw my personal legacy in the Schmoedown into your argument.
Dude, if I wanted to bring your legacy into this, I would have picked the one where you actually won matches. Okay, we're both picking spectaculars where you lost. That's irrelevant. All I'm saying is that in this match, this showed how amazing you are, whereas the previous spectacular really didn't show you off very well, and the only way to save it was to knock down an old man. I'm sorry, a fight between two able-bodied guys who actually loved each other and actually made each other stronger.
That wraps it up.
I love you, Roca. I know you're watching. I'm so sorry, man. I had to make arguments.
Tackle of a young man.
So Roca's an old man, huh?
Tackle of the young man.
He's the one who wrote today about being around in the silent era.
All right. Okay, that's a lot of words were said on both sides. Woo, okay. Oh boy, no words. All right, Kristian. Okay, so, participating in creating these storylines and everything, how do you kind of feel about their legacy and how they were discussed today so far?
Well, I think that Bibbs was arguing a lot about the matches themselves and how they dictated the league, which I think is also very relevant. and I think did a lot of things. I think Ben went inside a little deeper with how the stuff that Action did led to more stuff down the line of what has happened. But I think Bibbs made a solid point with the Shirewolf. I think that match, well, a lot of people don't realize with the Shirewolves is that they had just won a championship. It was a vacant championship, and people were like, oh, they were just handed the belt. That all went away after that win, and it was against Who's the Boss. It turned the Shirewolves from a team that was good, that won the championship, to the legends that they are today. So it was a very relevant match. But what Ben's also saying is that there were a lot of solid matches inside of what 2 did to further move stuff around. And even though I know what Bibbs was doing arguing wise, Bibbs with the legacy of the Patriots, I mean, watching the Patriots perform in anything, now you go back and it's like if you're a Schmoedown fan, even though you might hate it, you're like, oh, I wish I could have seen the Patriots play a couple matches, and that was a big win against Above the Line. So I think Bibbs got maybe a little flustered in the argument round. I think he was yelling a little bit more so than he did in the previous 2. But if you ask me my overall opinion of the entire match, I got Bibbs 2 rounds to 1, but I give Bateman that round.
I feel very similarly. I'm just gonna pull over to the chat real quickly while I attempt to collect my thoughts. To me, this is a very personal one. Okay, so Lee and Gilpin, he's mentioned, I think Ben made a great argument with talking about how the tackle changed league, but there's definitely mentions about, Spectacular 2 progress and storylines, but the last 2 matches weren't good. So I think it comes down to, at the end of the day, like I mentioned, how do we talk about these matches today? How do we talk about these storylines today?
Spectacular 2, I would disagree with that. I would say that oh no, you're right. You're talking about Team Action and top 10. Yes. Even though well, I guess that's why, because what Ben said. Ben made a good point that the match itself between Action and top 10 was a clunker, but I remember it being great because of what happens at the end. Because what that did do is that for what the comment just made there, it did change, because I think that at that point some people still didn't realize it was, even in the audience, didn't know if it was real or fake. That particular thing said, oh, this is where the show can go.
Yeah,
I understand. So I do think I understand what Ben was saying there. But so no, I think that how they hold up. I think that all the story there were a couple storylines that were dropped. No one mentioned the Kalinowski and Brienne moment in 2, because that was a big thing that was going to go.
Huge. Yeah.
That was going to go a long way, but it just certain things happened and just it got dropped. But that was a massive storyline that happened in 2.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It also, something to remember is that as well, not only were like a lot of these matches were good. I mean, there's definitely some matches in each of these that are iconic. Like when it comes to the Shirewolves, Shirewolves versus Who the Boss, it's definitely one of my personal favorite matches of all time. It's definitely in conversation as one of the best team matches of all time, as far as it, I think so. Over Commissionable, like you mentioned, I do feel like so far as of now, based on the arguments alone, I do feel like Spectacular 3 is kind of edging Ben out a little bit of Spectacular 2, just because, so much drama going on. I feel like there's much more lead up versus Spectacular 2. We weren't 100% sure what was going on. So it was a little more vague. I felt like there was a little bit less promotion going into it. So, but also I was also a much significantly bigger fan, of Schmoedown, by the time, 3 rolled around. Okay, so we're going to be going into our final statements. Each of you guys have 1 minute on the clock to really kind of wrap it up, put a nice bow on, and solidify the votes in your favor. And we're going to find out who is going to walk away with this really sexy looking belt. Look at that. Isn't it cute? So pretty.
Good looking belt.
It's a very attractive belt. Okay. Now, again, we are going to be starting with Ben for your final closing statement. You have 1 minute on the clock to tell everyone why they should vote for you. Starting now.
When you talk about things that happen because of something, you look back to 2017's Spectacular 2, and the things that came out of it are very important. You talk about the tackle and what it did, obviously, for the chair hit, for the tackle through the table. I mentioned that already. It couldn't have happened without our willingness to do that stunt. You talk about the rivalry that's created between Team Action and Top 10. That rivalry has lived on as an important piece of storyline building for years to come. I mean, there was stuff as earlier this year with Roka and I arguing over who was going to manage competitors. I mean, these are rivalries that the seeds were planted in 2017. They culminated in that moment of physical violence at the end of 2017. You talk about a division that we earlier today on SEN talked about maybe retiring in Star Wars. The only real reason that we kept the thing going was because of the promise of a match like Whitwer versus Knapsack. Knapsack didn't have anything to do against Damon. He was never going to win that match. Everybody knows that looking back at the talent level, but he was perfectly matched against Whitwer at the time. That is the greatest spectacular.
Okay. A match with so much promise, indeed. Okay, and yes, Rachel, you could have won a belt. You were indeed. Love you, Rachel. She's so amazing. All right. Okay. And I am, Ryan, I am going to be pimping out the heck out of this belt. It's a gorgeous belt, if I do say so myself. All right. Gorgeous. We're going to be going into Bibbs, your final closing statement as well, to get everyone on your side for the third and final question. You have 1 minute on the clock starting now.
Okay, so what changed with the 2018 Spectacular? First off, Kristian Harloff stepped away from the commissioners. We had a whole new set of commissioners, changing the rules, changing the way the whole Schmoedown was going to be structured. That was a big deal. You had KO solidifying his legacy as an IG champion, and going into the latest season, that was an important deal. But here's the thing on top of all of that stuff. You don't have a bunch of stuff you can't talk about if you're supporting the Spectacular. You don't have clunker matches. You don't have storylines that didn't go anywhere, like Brienne and Mike Kalinowski. You don't have, we resorted to violence for ratings. Like, you actually just have really good storylines, really unexpected developments, actually great matches consistently all throughout. And yeah, I'm sorry, even the team action top 10 stuff, that was going on beforehand. Y'all were talking smack beforehand. Guy was Roka's son for a while, which, by the way, when are we getting back to that? Team action, finish something you start, for God's sake. The only time team action really finished something you start was when we broke that table, which is my table.
Tables are
never established. You just claimed
retconned
it. You can be part of such an iconic moment. That's what you did. You tried to inject yourself into the story.
Okay, we're done.
He's the guy who injected himself into the Schmoedown by hosting a show.
Okay, now we just heard everything for our final question, for our third and final question, and I gotta say, things are getting really intense. Okay, so you heard it here, guys. Go over to, you heard all of our questions today. Just want to reaffirm, the first question was, which IG competitor who was eliminated in the first round of the tournament shows the most potential to win the IG belt? The second one being, which manager can form the strongest core trio for the next season by retaining current competitors? And for the final question, what is the best overall Spectacular of all time? Now, obviously, like I mentioned, we can, put our personal stuff into this as much as we want. By the end of the day, it's about these arguments, it's about these debates, and who debated better. Let us know on Twitter, cast your votes over there, and to determine who's going to walk away with that very sexy looking belt. You can do it right there, just giving you a saying. Now, we have 10 minutes for you guys to go vote right now.
I mean, vote fairly, guys. Vote fairly. Don't just vote for me because I'm action. I'm on the coin. Don't vote for me because you like me. Be sure to vote for what you think is fair. That's what you should vote for. Agreed.
Listen, we all know that if this is just a popularity contest, that Ben Bateman is going to win this. Everybody loves Ben. He's handsome. He's smart. He hosts shows for the Schmoedown. He's clearly Kristian's favorite. Like, he's clearly
reverse psychology you're trying to use on the audience right now, Bibbs.
No. I'm dead serious about this. If I win one of these rounds, I'm going to feel good. You know why? Because A, Ben is a great debater, and B, he actually also picked a lot of the things that's going to look better on a Twitter poll, which, let's be honest here, has got to have at least some factor, because I'm not sure how many people are watching this.
You can't use this time to make an argument for the audience, Bibbs. Shut your mouth. You're really appealing to the audience.
I'm not.
Shut it. No, talk about something else.
You literally just made a
talk about something else. Talk about musicals you like.
I'm being genuine. I'm just saying. Ben is more popular than me, and I accept that. If I win run round, I'm happy today. I just wanted to say this was a lot of fun. Ben and I are both really competitive people. Ben is the one who taught me how to make it personal. He's really good at it. So I just want to say thank you for that.
So you just have to deal with this every once in a while. I deal with this all the time.
Yeah, it's Sure, there's a lot going on. It's very. I don't want to say these are very personal debates, but at the end of the day, both these competitors worked incredibly hard in order to not only debate efficiently, but do the research and actually put this together. But overall, I'd say both of them are fantastic. I can't wait to see who's going to come out on top. Yeah. Now, again, I just want to give you a quick time update. We're almost at 8 minutes remaining, and I know, Kristian, you have some important stuff to go to, so feel free to drop off whenever you need to.
Yeah, waiting for the word. As soon as I get the word, but I'll wait.
All right, perfect. I just want to go over to the chat, real quickly to just reaffirm. Remember to vote on all 3 rounds. Just saying, all 3 rounds. Yeah, so there's a lot of love on both sides. Ryan Pames, real quick, says, Bibbs, speaking the truth.
When? I'm curious. I said a lot of things.
Miss Movies, facts. But also, Dean Morgan says, vote for Ben because of the sunglasses and slick hair.
Right? How can I compete with that?
I took off the sunglasses so you could see the whites of my eyes when I beat you, Bibbs. That's why I took them off.
Thanks, man. Thanks, man. That's great. You're very handsome.
I think everyone present here is handsome, but just saying.
Well,
yeah. It's like, but also Ren again, classic reaction, Kristian. Just the, I guess. Mm-hmm.
What were you reacting to? Was it the guy, Roka Bean guy's father?
That was it. If it was just me voting, you would have lost on that one.
I think that might be Kristian's least favorite storyline of all time. Actually.
I love it so. That's why I love it so much.
The worst thing that they ever did when I wasn't looking is somehow they shot a scene. These 2 idiots. They shot a scene of actually doing it, and I was like, "Why would you waste the cameraman's time at that?" And I said, "Delete that footage. It's a stupid scene."
We've never seen that scene. That's never come out.
No.
Well, speaking of scenes that technically never happened, and all that good stuff, Kristian, Ben, Bibbs, can you tell me any secret storylines that almost happened that you want to do that never really came about because of the way matches kind of came out, or anything along those lines? Or is that much?
I mean, I always bring up the one that if Kalinowski and if Kalinowski would have won that match against Team Action, that Gertler and LaQuasto were going to go heel with him, and they were going to be like this evil trio that were kind of trying to bring down the entire Schmoedown, the 3 of them, and just recruiting people left and right to be part of their kind of brigade. But that obviously didn't happen, and Mike went out on his own.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when we Critically Acclaimed played the Shire Wolves, and there was a chance we would have won. And I was talking about what happens if that happens, because that would be a big deal. Shire Wolves are so popular, and I actually got Kristian, and I wonder if he even remembers this, to agree to let us bring in a new manager who was the puppet.
I think I do remember that. I actually well, it worked. It worked for you because the dynamic that I started to really like between Bibbs and Whitney was that Whitney was taking this his character was taking this very serious kind of no jokes, was annoyed by everything. And here's Bibbs, who's ultimately Mankind, who was just in the back with the hat and complete nonsense. And we were doing this before Bray Wyatt was in WWE. Bibbs was doing this, and it's right over Bibbs' head, that reference, but still.
No idea.
Yeah, that's fine. But he was kind of the lunatic that was off running in the background. And we just, it's just, but I'm happy though, because the kid storyline was where we kind of formed. That wouldn't have happened if Critically Acclaimed would have won the championship.
I'm actually not sure about that, because if you recall, when we were watching Brendan's very first match, and it looked for a second like he was going to come from behind and win it, we were actually looking at each other like, should he join a faction with me and Whitney? So that could have maybe gone another way.
Right,
but
maybe
really
so. But if you guys were champions, how often would you guys? How long before you guys would actually play it together?
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Ben, anything that didn't come together? I'd be very curious.
Or alternatively, Ben, if you can't think, if there's not much, what would have you liked to see?
Oh, I got one. I had one. When the founding fathers, if they would have lost to Corruption, Roka was going to go heel and turn on Merle and everybody in Orlando.
I still think that could happen, but that's just me. But Ben, what were you saying now?
Well, there's a couple pieces. The first one was when I went through the table. The original idea was to have a giant breakaway piece of glass, like sugar glass. We were gonna have me get tackled through a friggin' window, and we couldn't get I think the insurance or the glass, so we did the table instead.
Thad was looking into all of it, plexiglass, everything. We were looking into all of it. We were gonna.
Chris was like, "Are you willing to get put through some fake glass?" And I was like, "Is it dangerous?" He was like, "I don't think so. We're gonna find out."
What could have been?
Yeah. Well, and Clark Wolf was going to go talk about spectacular. We were very close to turning Clark Wolf heel at the end if they would have lost to Who's the Boss.
I remember you teasing that.
Yeah,
I'm trying to remember if there was early on, like in 2017, before Drew and I decided that it was totally inappropriate. I think he was gonna like be catcalling the Shire Wolves, and we talked about it. We're like, that's a really bad idea. Don't do that. Really, and we turned away from it. But I think that was a brief. I think that was a brief, like, how could we be the most despicable guys in the world conversation to happen.
You would have been despicable.
There's a difference between being bad guys for character, the way you guys, the greatest Schmoedown team of all time, the way you guys were before you unfortunately retired. But at the same time, there's a big difference between that and being creepy.
Well, there's something
really important. Like, catcalling is just
it's terrible.
There's no good situation. There's never okay or
I don't think it was.
I think because like we got to remember that we are, when we're up on stage, whether we're champions or just players, we are kind of setting an example. And I think when it's important that when we are evil or whatever, that we make it clear that it is only in good fun and that we are not establishing a pattern of behavior that people shouldn't emulate in real life if they're fans of us, especially people with as many rabid fans as Team Action. I think you made the right call not doing that.
Yeah, no.
I don't think now that I'm remembering, I don't think we were going to do creepy cat calls. What I think it was going to be was Drew was going to give roses to Clark Wolf, and I was going to walk him in playing guitar. That was what I was going to do. And I remember it was
It was pitched and basically said, let's not do that.
That was
Well, I think that's definitely a wise choice. And just want to remind you guys, you have like 1 minute and almost 40 seconds left to go vote. So go do it. So just
Well, and my favorite one ever, I've talked about this one many times now on different shows, was after Team Action lost to Nerds Watch, and we were going to play Late to the Party. We came up with this elaborate pitch to do a Jerry Maguire entrance where Drew was going to put on like no shirt, a blazer, like he was going to have sunglasses, Cuba, and I was going to come in his cruise, and we were going to do a whole like show me the money, I'm starting my own league thing. And Kristian was like, you guys just had a great match. Like, be heels. What are you talking about? Well, that's the worst thing I've ever heard in my life.
One thing though that I will say, Alex, that from when you mentioned, like, there are certain people, like, I always knew that Guy and Bateman after a while could go face, but there's certain things that if you do with their characters, you can't. There are certain things that you can do with characters that you don't ever want them to really be faces, and you can. So there is ways to toe the line. Not that particular thing we were just talking about, but like Brandon Hanna, by the way, Brandon Hanna is. I think to this day, Brandon Hanna is the best heel that we've had, and I'll tell you why when I say that. Because Andrew Guy is the best performer, hands down, but he's likable, and even when he's doing despicable things, he's still getting cheered. Brandon Hanna, everyone hates Brandon Hanna, and
I hear you.
And he doesn't care. Like Andrew Guy, performing wise, there's no one that beats Andrew Guy. He's the best performer, and he'll even tell you he walks into an arena and people will still cheer him, even when he was supposed to get booed.
He's always got this underdog quality, like when Team Action broke up, it was all about who heard him. Like for a while, I remember initially, and he's raised his game significantly, but initially when Team Action came out, like the narrative was that like Ben was the one who was the exceptional player and Guy was the backup. Yeah, now it's not like that anymore, but he still retains that underdog aspect.
Yeah.
And time, y'all. That is all we have for voting. Please do not put any of the posts or any of that good stuff in the chat, please. And Ben and Bibbs, please do not go over to Twitter and check it out yourselves. I am going to be waiting on the numbers.
I have theories.
You have theories. Okay. Oh, shit. All right. Okay. All right. For the first question being, which IG competitor who was eliminated in the first round of the tournament shows the most potential to win the IG belt? With 57.9% of the vote in favor of Paul Oyama.
I don't really think it's funny. I think it's just good news. I don't know, Ben. You kind of.
I think they're both amazing. They're for sure both amazing.
Congratulations, Ben.
Sorry,
It
just came out of
it
it,
as
Bib.
whimsical as you do, but okay.
Over to the next question.
All right, one down.
The next question being, which manager can form the strongest core trio for the next season by retaining current players? With 55.2% of the vote, it is the FinStock Exchange. Meaning, and our winner, the Tournament of Champions, is Ben the Boss Bateman.
Congratulations, Ben. I know you really wanted this one.
Thanks,
that's really
Bibbs.
awesome.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I hope I didn't make it too easy for you.
Yeah.
But this is awesome.
Gucci.
Oh,
yeah, Gucci. We got it. We got there. Yep. We got it. Okay. Yeah, we'll talk later. Thanks, buddy.
Look at A. And for the third and final question being, what is the best overall spectacular of all time? With 53.8% of the vote, it is Spectacular 3 from 2018.
Oh,
is that mine?
Congratulations, Bibbs. Congratulations on winning that one. Congratulations on getting round 3.
I feel good about this. I feel happy about this. Most importantly, I'm happy that Ben won. I know that winning means a lot to him. So seriously, man, that's why you're good. That's why you're a good host. You really care about the competition stuff. I care too, but I think I'm weathering this a little better than you would have. So I'm really glad this worked out. Congratulations.
Well, we're getting a lot of.
I appreciate it.
We are getting a lot of love, obviously, not only from Bibbs, you're an amazing competitor. Ben, you're okay. Over just to that real quickly, we have Chris saying, boom, Chihuahua, BS, FinStock Exchange. Jake is going to angrily send the belt over to Ben, Yeah, so and very angrily indeed. Just a lot of love for the FinStock Exchange in general. But at the end of the day, I think both these competitors did amazing. Kristian, what do you think about these arguments? Do you think the right person won? What do you think?
I do not think the right person won. I think that I thought Bibbs won. My personal opinion, I thought Bibbs won. No offense to Bateman, but I was merely one vote. But I thought it was really good. It was a good match. But I was going back and forth, and I saw the polls at the end, and I was like, oh, they won apiece, and then I guess we just read the second one. But I think that I don't know. I like to see them go at it again. These two are always super competitive. So yeah.
I want to see us go. I know fate has to work out a certain way, and it might not happen this year, I think, but I really want to play a rematch against Ben in singles because that was a lot of fun, and he's one of the best people to play against. If you're gonna prove yourself, you got to play against the best. So he's definitely right up there.
Well, you've proved yourself in the past, Bibbs. I mean, you got there before I did, so I don't think there's any proving left to be done. So, but
again, I'm not sure everyone agrees with you on that, but I appreciate the thought nonetheless.
I just mean a champion's a champion. It's the one thing when you get it, they can never take it away. And I laughed about it earlier with Kristian because all the talk for what I want to do again in the Schmoedown, if I had never gotten there, then I'd still have that monkey on my back, but it's not there,
Well, there are some people, it's funny, Kristian brought up the whole thing about how the Shire Wolves needed that second match to prove that because the belt was vacated that they earned it. I earned it under those circumstances. To a lot of people, I still have a little asterisk on there, so I still want to win it straight up one of these days, and I might have to go through you to get it, and that would be cool.
Well, guess what, Bibbs? And this is something I'll give to call to action here too. You're gonna have that opportunity to do it again because you, my friend, are yet another person from the Quirky Mercs who has been entered into the tournament.
Yep.
You, my friend, you are in the tournament. So you and the kid and Perry Nemiroff are 3 out of the 4 contestants that have been named from the Quirky Mercs. So,
yay! I'm gonna play good, I hope.
Yes, Bibbs is in. Congratulations. All right. Well, look, this was a blast. Thank you, Alex, for having me. I got to get food for the family. Otherwise, we're all going to be in shits.
Good luck.
Kristian, we love you, man. Thanks for doing this.
You got it. Thanks,
Kristian.
Congrats, Ben.
Thanks, buddy.
All right. Okay. So real quickly, but we're going to be breaking things off here pretty soon. Congratulations to Ben. We will hesitantly send you the belt, And I just want to whip out that belt again. How gorgeous it truly is. Look at that sexy belt.
And it goes with literally everything Ben wears. It's going to be the perfect accessory.
Exactly. So Ben, when you get that belt in your little mailbox over there, I'm expecting for it to be like up on
Oh,
a
yeah,
shelf,
you'll get
up
Can,
here on the arm at all
can
times.
we have a Ben Bateman belt calendar?
You know what?
That would sell like gangbusters. That would sell real well.
I'm sure we can make it happen.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Alex, I'm looking for a new apartment. I'm looking to move, and I'm actively looking for a place that I can have the right positioning to display some sort of a shelf with like paraphernalia, belts and trophies and things that I can, Roka has his belt always in the corner, kind of over his shoulder. He always has it. It's really nicely displayed. All I have behind me is you can see my Player of the Year thing way back there on the other wall, but there's a bike and the fucking lock. It's like not a very elegant display. So
yeah, it's regardless, as long as I see that built in somewhere in there, I would be excited to see it either way. Okay, now in the future, I do want to let you guys know here, towards fall, like the end of fall, early winter time, Halloween-ish, I guess. I can't believe it's already like almost mid-July. It's just knocked my socks off.
Yeah.
We are going to
Halloween stores would have been opening right now.
Dude, don't get me so excited. I'd be really sad. I feel like that's an emotional thing to say for me. We are going to be actually having another tournament, and the winner of that tournament is actually going to be competing against Ben for the belt. So I'll give you a heads up, for sure. Yes, it's going to be a very fun time as well. All right. Okay, now real quickly, congratulations, Ben. Bibbs, you did amazing. What are your final words walking away today? I mean, aside from, having getting some polish and everything for that future belt you're going to have on your arm, how are you feeling? How confident and excited do you feel walking away from these debates, Ben?
I feel great. I mean, look, I'm going to give Bibbs all the credit in the world here. There's an important name in the title of this channel, and that's action. So I think it's unfair to not acknowledge that some of these fans might have a slight preference. Maybe not, but I think, it's hard. I think it's hard for any competitor to walk in here and go up against one of the two action guys on a channel called Call to Action. But that being said, the results were very close. They were very, very close. And Bibbs beat me in the third round by a greater margin than I beat him in one of the first two. So it's just a matter of a couple percentage points and a couple votes that separated us. I knew Bibbs would be my hardest opponent. I could tell. And that second round where you're yelling at each other is always the one. And he's very good at yelling louder. So I just sort of knew that was going to be the one. And that's, I think, the one where he almost edged me out over and over again. I got a little excited. I used my 30 seconds before him. He did the smarter thing to wait to use his 30 to counter my 30, which was initially what I wanted to do. But, I think I narrowly escaped in this case. I think it was a little bit of an ace beating Demolanta situation because I think that Bibbs did kind of have a little bit of an advantage through most of those rounds. But luckily, I probably won't have to play Bibbs next. I probably will play someone else before he gets back in the ring with me, I hope.
It's probably likely.
We'll see. Absolutely. I cannot wait to, obviously see you win another championship match here pretty soon. And Bibbs, you definitely used your, championship rule, perfectly today going against Ben when he decided to use it. Do you feel like there was anything you kind of wish you could have added to it, or is there anything you would have changed when going into your arguments?
I wish that when I was debating between picking corruption or the Finstock Exchange, that my literal coin toss had gone the other way. Because I think that would have made all the difference. I think those were the only two factions that were like clear, good answers for this. And I think the Finstock Exchange just, look, you guys got a lot of talent over there. And I think the argument that you could just throw a dart at one of you guys and pick a good player to go into the next season was pretty hard to compete with. So what are you going to do? But Ben is a great competitor. There's no shame in losing to one of the greats. And I'm going to go make more of my millions of podcasts now.
I love all those millions of podcasts.
Yeah, we're doing a guest one tonight too, so that'll be fun.
Nice, that'll be cool. I do have to say, I didn't really, something I did was a little concerned about as well, Ben, when you talked about it, because you didn't give like any kind of definite answer. Your response was pretty much like any combination of competitors. The core trio is going to be who's going to win at the very end. So you can't really definitively say who's going to have the belts and who doesn't. But honestly, my gut reaction is if these like core trio had to compete in all four, I was thinking it would be Scrimshaw, Merle, and maybe I don't want to say maybe you or Barbarian, honestly,
Well,
because
they have
I'm
Demolanta,
assuming-
not Scrimshot. Quirky
Yeah,
Mercs
you
have
mean
Scrimshot.
Demolanta.
oh, sorry, yeah, you're right. Sorry, yeah, thank
Well,
you.
I think
thank
what
you
it comes
for-
down to, Alex, and to answer, I mean, the question, and I think it's hot water. I put myself in just a little bit with that answer, and I knew it would be a little bit because
Gotcha.
I just sort of knew that it would. Am I cutting out here? You guys hear me? Okay.
You can
Oh,
hear
we
fine.
can hear you.
Okay. I kind of knew there would be a little bit of hot water with that answer because I'd be asked to name the three, and it's not my place, and I don't want to stoke any of those fires. That being said, I think that there's probably 5 or 6 different combinations within our faction that make sense. The most difficult thing is to assign the value of the Star Wars division. That's the hardest question to answer because, you know, if you have somebody who plays a few times a year, and if Star Wars has the same momentum that it had this year, maybe having a really top level player like Demolanta, who's just accuracy is off the charts, is as valuable as having an incumbent team's champ who plays, you know, a couple times and 2-3 times in the year, maybe. But I have to think that the quality.
If I were to bet, I think we're going to have another tournament next year. This Twitch tournament was amazing, and a lot of people really loved it. So I think you have to factor it in, at least as a significant possibility.
Yeah.
I just think the bottom line is kind of this, right? Like I think that corruption's pretty great. I think that Chance is really starting to show up, and he's, you know, he obviously getting his first win there, and Inner Geekdom was really impressive. Kalinowski has shown what he can do, and you know, I mean, if Laura Kelly is a great Star Wars player and that was your trio, that's a great trio. I just think Merle is kind of singular. He's sort of like an impossibly hard piece to replace in any player in any faction. Yeah. And so if you're starting with Dan, right? Like I think Rocco is a greater legacy player than I am for sure. And I think Riley has achieved more than I have and is probably a greater player also. So even if you just went with those 3 guys, right? That's an easy 3. If you didn't want to include one of us for some preference, and if you wanted to do like Barbarian because he's newer and he's hungrier, again,
he's also a multi-league player as well because
you
would have that's what corruption has. They have 2 multi-league players and a Star Wars player. If you have Dan and Roka, you only have 1 multi-league player. So my argument was you have the 3 who cover the most bases.
Yeah.
But regardless, I'm really looking forward to this because I honestly feel like we should call the managers can only keep 3 people the Finstock exchange rule, because it feels like it's basically just there to like, listen, Finstock's going to pick 3, and then like 5 of your players are going to go in the first round of the draft.
Interestingly enough, Bibbs, you actually say that, but I did the math on this the other day, and I started to look at all the rosters to figure out the third. So most factions have 2 players that would go in the first 2 or 3 rounds. Almost everyone has 2. Even a lot of them have 3. Most people don't have the same thing we have, where the 4th and the 5th player are players that probably go there. Most people have. So my thing is like, I think that if let's just say, for the sake of argument, Finstock keeps the team champs. Let's just say he was to keep the 3 of us, right? The 2 of them and then me. And let's say he can't keep Riley, right? Based on just singles rankings. If he was to keep those 3 players, I think it's realistic that in the first round of the draft, in our 4th round or whatever, the 4th round player, he's able to get either Barbarian, Riley, or Demolanta. Probably. I think one of those players.
It depends on what order it is. If he's 5th, they might all go right away.
My guess is I think that there's enough good players who are dominant that I think one of those players for sure ends up on the exchange. So at that point, it's kind of like if we lose the other 2 and we have to draft other players, it sucks, but we don't lose everybody. We don't have players that are so greatly above everyone else that I think that's the case.
While we're on the subject, because I'm very, very curious, how are you going to feel if you're not one of the people who gets picked?
Like if I get put in the draft?
Yeah.
I will be totally, I will tell Finstock, best of luck. I know that I'm the player in the league who has made the clearest that I actually feel very confident in playing without a manager. I don't think it's anything to do with him being a good or a bad manager. I feel that all the gameplay decisions I make, and I usually make them based on my own research. So I don't feel like I need that. I don't need that.
But you'd have to have a manager, though. So you're running like a risk that you would have to. There'd be someone else.
I do think the point that Ben is making is that, you know, having a manager is amazing, especially for a newer competitor, or if you're still trying to learn an additional league or whatever the situation is. But at the same time, you don't really need a manager to tell you, Ben, what's considered challengeable or not. You recognize things pretty quickly. And I think the same thing for you, Bibbs. Sometimes it is nice to managers serve different purposes. Sometimes it is there for technical, but other times they are there for just motivational factors as well.
Well, I was actually thinking that it could go a lot of different other ways. And like maybe if he isn't with someone like Finstock who has like this big legacy, Ben could actually have more control over the faction, and maybe that would be a good thing for Ben. Or maybe he ends up with a faction that's more on the quirky side, whether or not it's the quirky mercs, and all of a sudden you end up in wackier situations than you're used to. That could completely change, maybe not your gameplay, but the dynamic of how you're presented.
I think there's a couple things there. One of them is that there are certainly players in the league that aren't on my faction that I would love to play with. There's a number of people who I'm a big fan of and I think are great. And I think there'd be a lot of character and really cool stuff with those people. So if for whatever reason that was to happen, and Finstock made it clear to me, hey, look, I got to keep 3 other people. You know, at this point, he says to me, like, you know, look, I'm keeping Roka and Dan, and Barbarian's a 3-league player who's currently the champion of this division. I just can't keep you. I'm sorry. You know, if that happens, I think it's pretty safe to say I'm going to be the first pick off the board. I mean, I'm the #1 ranked player in singles right now. I set the team's record in my last team's match played. So if I somehow was to drop there, I think I would probably go first. Maybe I don't, but or no, that's not even how it works. I can be picked up by a different faction, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So I wouldn't be in the draft. But I think if it was to happen, if he made that case to me and he made a strong case, I'd hear what he had to say, right? Like if that's what he believed, then I'd probably try to come up with what I felt was the best composition of players to win somewhere else.
Last question for Ben. I just want to talk about this. I'm sorry. What are the odds of you ever becoming a manager?
I totally thought about it.
You can't play though. That's the trick.
Yeah. I think in reality that's eventually what will happen. I think I'm not really interested in being like, you know, I think Roke is kind of the template of he's the all-time legacy player who like he just loves it. He loves playing. And it feels like no matter how many times he's considered retiring or walking away, it's like there's just an element to what makes Roka great as a competitor that is so much more in his passion and his fire and his knowledge than it does as his ability to like, he doesn't strike me as somebody who's going to be as comfortable like analyzing and coaching and not being in the game. And I have that same fire to win, but I love that analytical side. The Moneyball side of the game is like one of my favorite pieces. And so like managing Dan in New York, I had an absolute blast doing. I thought that was so fun. And I think from a character perspective, I can do a lot with it. So eventually someday I think, but I have to get to the end of the line with my, building the legacy I want to leave behind first.
I do think that at the end of the day, one of our big takeaways from this conversation is Ben's hair is actually his manager. So check the tree. You're absolutely right.
I mean, let me ask you, Bibbs. Sorry, Alex. I just want to, unless you have to kick us out of here, but I am curious. Like for instance, if I was to tell you right now that I was retiring as a player at the end of the season, I was entering as a manager next year, would you play for me?
Okay. First off, I would be concerned about my own faction. I feel like I owe them a certain amount of loyalty.
I'm not doing it. So,
but no, I'm talking about it though, because that's the ultimate question is, would I leave the quirky mercs? And there's a lot that could happen here. Like Koi could move to Paraguay and then we never see him again. And so all of a sudden I'm a free agent. If that happens, hell yeah. 100%. If not, we'd have to maybe have a conversation. Like I'm not above having a conversation, but I do like where I am. I do love Koi and I do love Ben. I do love Brendan. I love you too, Ben. But I do love Brendan. And I would definitely want to stay with Brendan no matter what. So
you answer my question. You would take me seriously as a manager.
I would take you seriously. Yes. 100%. Whether or not to go with you, there are other external factors, but I would take you very seriously.
All right, rock and roll.
I just really need that official booklet of rules because, mentioning, what's okay and what isn't okay. Apparently it's been written, but it actually hasn't really come out.
Still waiting for that to be published.
Yeah. So I mean, it's like in the wind. Where is it? I don't even know. It sounds like one of those like myths. Like, is it real? Is it not real? I'm not sure. But Rachel did mention, I kind of pulled it up for a hot second earlier. Actually, managers can play if they draft themselves. So I do know a lot of people actually thought that was going to be the case with like Sam Levine potentially.
I was under the impression that that's probably not a thing, but. Yeah, I mean, I know Burnett did at the beginning, but I thought that there was like an exception made. But maybe
my understanding of the rule book, considering I wrote the rough draft of it before it went off and got changed a bunch of times, there's no section in the version I wrote that has anything to do with managers drafting and players. That was never written. So if it got added, I know it went to like 14 people within Skybound to change it for legal. So there's a decent chance that it got added. But that from my understanding, that's the reason we haven't seen it yet.
I haven't seen that version. I have no idea what's been done to it. So, but I imagine if there was anything that affected gameplay dramatically, that we would have been told about that at least.
Yeah, well, I do. Maybe it's something that things will change. I mean, this was definitely the first season that we, Kristian and Ellis and everyone, is doing a lot of experimentation when it comes to Schmoedown. Obviously, not only with Twitch, and it was the first time we were doing a lot of virtual stuff as well on this level. So who knows? I get a bunch of additional rules before the end of the season. Some announcements will be made considering the next draft. Now, also, I got to say, with Scenario, I would go with Alex over Ben. Thank you.
Well.
Alex over Ben.
Maybe I would too. Alex didn't ask. Only Ben asked.
Just saying. I wish. Okay, Ryan. Whatever. All right. Okay. So, you guys.
Oh shit! It's 39. Sorry, guys. I have a 5:30 call that I'm not on right now.
I'm sorry, Ben.
Sorry. Yeah.
Sorry, Ben.
From work. That's my fault. I didn't realize that.
Congratulations.
Thank you, guys.
All right.
Thank you. Love you guys.
All
right. Bye, guys.
Okay, now it's just you and me, my dude.
Hi.
Yes, I'm excited. Okay, so now you are currently 4-1. Yeah. That is your current record. I cannot wait to have you back and do some. Oh no, gosh, no. Yeah, but I do want to mention that is there anyone in the future you would in Schmoedown or maybe not in Schmoedown that you would love to argue against in the future, or
Sam.
You want to go against Sam?
Sam Levine. Sam Levine would be wonderful at this. Whether I win or lose, a debate against Sam would be an absolute delight. So he's definitely the first person who came to mind. He knows the game. He loves the game. And, he's an actor. He's a comedian. He's very intelligent. I'm sure he'd pose some really wonderful arguments. Yeah.
Okay, guys. You heard it here. Go tweet at Sam Levine and let him know.
I'm sorry, Sam.
I love the thing is I've never even I would love to have Sam on. I just know Sam is like a crazy busy guy, and so if I tweet at him or something, it's not really gonna nothing's gonna result from it. But everyone definitely go over and tweet at him. That'd be a great time. Not to mention going up against Bibbs, one of the best not only debaters when it comes to Schmoedown, but it's one of the greatest competitors we've ever had. Now, it's true. It's not an opinion. It's just true. Okay, so we are going to be wrapping it up over here. Bibbs, I know you're doing 1,000,001 wonderful things. We also have links to your Patreon, the critically acclaimed website, and all that good stuff in the description box below if you're kind of curious about it. But is there anything else you would like to say before we kind of wrap things up?
No, other than this has been a really fun series of competitions to be a part of. Thank you very much for having me and putting them on. I just want to say once again, we get really heated in these things, but congratulations with all the genuineness in my heart to Ben Bateman. Thank you, Kristian Harloff, for being a guest judge and also for co-creating the Schmoedown, which is the reason why we're all here and gives us, something to do. So this has been a whole lot of fun. I'm really grateful to everybody who played along and who voted, no matter who you voted for. Just the fact that you're participating means a lot to us. And yeah, if you want more of me, I'm over at the Critically Acclaimed Network or patreon.com/critically acclaimed network if you want more exclusive stuff on top of that. And I'm always busy, so you'll see me around somewhere.
Absolutely. Doing 1,000,001 things at the same time. Absolutely. Multitasking at its finest. You can also reach Ben Bateman, our winner tonight, and the winner of the Tournament of the Champions as well, out on Twitter and, a whole bunch of places. He's doing a really cool YouTube channel called Nerds in Suits, where he's singing a lot of songs, doing a whole bunch of cool interviews, all that fun stuff. So definitely check it out. I have links in the description box below. So go check it out. Now, I'm Alex Mack, part of the Call to Action crew. Please like and subscribe and give this video a comment. We'd really appreciate it for sure. And shout out to not only Frank Janish for coming up with that second question that I really stole from his Schmoedown rundown episode the other day, but also Kristian Harloff doing a banger job and really helping me out today. I really appreciate it. All right, guys. This has been our final night of Schmoebates for the Tournament of Champions. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today. Over 103 of you guys, and we love it so much. Thank you. And we will talk to you soon, and have a wonderful evening. And keep debating.